Provider node. This chapter provides a comprehensive guide to set up a provider node in any node. The chapter explains how to configure the network controller, which enables any node to route traffic between the PSTN and Zoom Phone. It also covers port and NAT Traversal configurations, which help ensure successful communication between any node and Zoom Phone. Other critical configuration settings such as client authentication, SIP registration, proxy, and asserted URI are also explained in detail. The network peer whitelist and the incoming and outgoing rewrite rules, which allow administrators to configure rules for incoming and outgoing calls. And finally, the importance of assigning a node name to the provider node. Overall, this chapter provides essential guidance on configuring any node as a provider node for Zoom Phone premise peering. Voice over IP provider node. The second node of the selected scenario is for the voice over IP provider. As for the first node, proceed with Configure to start. The Node Interconnection Assistant offers a comprehensive list of pre-configured provider profiles that include preset settings like the remote SIP domain. In case your provider is not listed, you can still use the other voice over IP provider option, which we will illustrate in our example. But do keep in mind that this approach may need additional configuration steps. Network controller. Next, you need to configure the network-related controller settings. Specify the IP version if necessary and indicate whether reverse DNS lookup should be enabled. Please note that enabling reverse DNS lookup can lead to communication issues if the network controller does not use a public IP address. In our environment, we've chosen the network card that corresponds to the associated IP address for node communication. Select Next to proceed. Ports. Ensure that the port values are consistent with your network and remote configurations. Match port values to network and remote configurations. UDP ports are employed to transmit RTP real-time transport protocol, responsible for conveying voice data. TCP ports are utilized when TCP or TLS is employed for signaling. For dynamic UDP TCP ports, the value should be at least 3 times higher than the maximum concurrent sessions. The wizard will detect if ports are currently in use and increment accordingly. Please be aware that the wizard only checks the 2 signaling ports and not the dynamic ports. NAT Traversal. NAT Traversal allows traffic to reach its intended destination, even if a device does not have a public IP address. If the selected network card does not utilize an external IP address, it may be necessary to input an external IP address in the node settings. This external IP address will be consistently used by any node in SIP communication when providing its own contact address to the remote party. The use of NAT Traversal is not necessary in our example, as a network card with an external IP address has already been selected. Click Next to continue. SIP Interconnection. SIP Interconnection establishes the connection to the provider, with 2 common options: node interconnection via SIP trunking and node as SIP registration client. In our environment, we register with a registrar to connect to our provider, which is the default value recommended by the anynode wizard. However, some providers use direct peer-to-peer SIP trunks, in which case configuring the remote IP addresses in any node is sufficient, and the SIP trunking option can be selected. Continue with Next. Remote SIP domain. By setting the remote SIP domain, you can specify where to reach the remote endpoint for outgoing calls. In this case, the remote SIP domain is determined via use URI representation. To set the remote SIP domain for outgoing calls using the URI representation, follow these steps. In the Use URI representation field, click on Edit to open the Input Assistance and enter the provider's hostname. Note that the scheme will usually be SIP and the wizard will automatically insert SIP after your input. The remaining fields are optional and not required for this example. Click Next to proceed. Client Authentication. To authenticate ourselves to the registrar, our provider has given us a username and password. Mark Activate Client Authentication and enter your credentials. Proceed with Next. SIP registration. The SIP registration input mask, including the registrar URI and the address of record (AOR), is now automatically filled in by the wizard. It's important to keep in mind that both the registrar URI and the user part of the AOR may differ from the remote SIP domain and the username used during authentication, and this can vary even among providers. SIP proxy. The proxy server URI may be used to specify a load balancer's address in scenarios where multiple proxy servers are employed for redundancy and scalability. This enables any node to distribute traffic across multiple proxy servers to ensure efficient utilization of resources and provide high availability in case of server failures. The input mask for the proxy server is optional and unnecessary for our sample configuration, therefore, we will skip this step. Asserted URI. Providers often require a valid phone number from the phone number block in the p-asserted identity header to confirm that the number is legitimate. We recommend using the default setting for the asserted URI and keeping the checkbox enabled. Please enter the user part of the correct phone number associated with your account at the provider. Click Next to continue. Network Peer Whitelist. The network peer whitelist controls and restricts access to trusted network peers. It enhances security by allowing only approved entities to communicate with the system, ensuring confidentiality and integrity of communications. The anynode node interconnection assistant has automatically configured the network peer whitelist settings. To ensure that only SIP messages from the selected provider are allowed, we recommend accepting the following default values. Including remote SIP domain. Including proxy. Allowing only negotiated peers for RTP/RTCP. The network peer whitelist is a crucial feature that enables communication only between selected sources and destinations while blocking all other sources. Only packets from IP addresses in the whitelist or that can be resolved to an IP address are accepted or sent, while all other packets are blocked. We strongly advise against turning off this feature. Although no SIP proxy has been set, the option should remain enabled. Ensure that all components are reachable through the IP network. Unless protected by additional firewalls or routers, it is strongly advised not to disable the whitelist for security purposes. Incoming and outgoing rewrite rules. You can enter dial string rewritings here. Zoom generally requires phone numbers to be in the internationalized E.164 format. For incoming calls from the provider, the source and destination telephone number can be converted from the provider's format to the internationalized E.164 format. As an example, a 00 is replaced by a plus. Since no incoming or outgoing rewrite rules are required for incoming or outgoing calls from the provider, we can skip the following dialogues. We recommend that you transfer everything to the internationalized E.164 format with a plus as an optimal procedure and best practice before routing. Hit Next to continue. This input form creates the name for the provider node. This designation of the node name is also used for the routing domain and dashboard entries later. Use always a unique identifier for the name. The assistant suggests a name for you. You have the flexibility to change the default node name as desired. Here, we will shorten the name suggested by the assistant slightly. Once you have made all the necessary configurations, simply click Finish to proceed. Node Overview. Like the previous step, the assistant will provide a summary of the configurations made. Click on Next to proceed with defining anynode's routing behavior for this scenario.